It is the end of 2024. We made it. We survived somehow, everybody. What a year it has been. We have the entertaining online drama of various YouTubers calling each other grifters. All the metalhead YouTubers are putting together their lists of favorite albums of the year, anticipating the flood of comments calling their list shit. So in the midst of all this intensity, I thought it'd be fun to put together this video covering a topic that everyone just cannot stop discussing. It has been the hot topic issue of the entire month. The books. I'm sure this video will get tons of views.
Whack.
So headbang the like button, stage dive on the subscribe button, and windmill the video to your friends. If you're a fan of the channel and you'd like to show your support, consider becoming a member. Memberships are only 99 cents a month, and each one really helps me toward my goal of creating a life-size Godzilla to invade Canada. About 2 years ago or so, I started reading regularly. I try to read about a chapter of a book every morning, and I've discussed it a little bit on my live streams here and there, just bringing up things that I've been reading at the time. And some of you have expressed interest and asked me to maybe talk a little bit more about some of the books I'm reading or anyone's to recommend. Some people have joked about making a Why It's Metal book club, which is probably not gonna happen, but with the end of the year being a great time for reflection, I thought this would be a fun, quick thing to do. Maybe encourage some people out there to start reading more. I got through about 9 books this year. Not very fast, just about like 30 minutes each morning or so. Now, it's not the most that someone can read, but reading 9 books throughout the year is about twice as much as most people read.
You be all into reading and shit. Hey, that's some real good shit for real. Congratulations.
Did you just congratulate me for reading?
Some of the younger people out there might have no idea what I'm talking about. Do you even know what these are? They're like TikTok reels, but longer than tell a story that are in your head that you have to make up in your mind brain.
In my head movies.
So yeah, if you start just reading like 30 minutes every day, it's not much, and you're about 30 minutes smarter than most people out there.
So smart, me. Enjoy books so much.
I started reading regularly just because I was concerned about the attention spans in America and in people in general nowadays. Most people now have the attention span of a goldfish with Alzheimer's, and they're not capable of reading anything beyond a TikTok hashtag.
You know, that reading shit, you know what I mean? It's hard, son. Word, you know what I mean? Word, you know what I mean? Especially when them books be, you know what I mean? You know, real thick and heavy like, you know what I mean? Word, you know what I mean?
It's also just really peaceful and nice. Being in the moment in a story, not pressed with screens and notifications constantly and jumping from dopamine hit to dopamine hit. I really love being able to take a book and be able to sit with it and envision it happening, be there, follow the characters along. I'm the type of reader who likes stories. I like fiction, I like classic literature, I like characters and plots and interesting setups like that. So without further ado, let's go over what I read this year. I started 2024 full nerd reading some of the Star Wars EU books, which are fantastic for any Star Wars fans out there. These are the true stories of Star Wars and what really happened to these characters. This has nothing to do with that fictional fan crap that Disney's put out that aren't real movies. They're just collective trauma we all have. These are the Hand of Thrawn duology by Timothy Zah, who did the Heir to the Empire trilogy where they introduced Thrawn. Thrawn has become one of my all-time favorite characters of anything ever, period. He's up there with like Lemmy for people that I find inspiring. These 2 books really blew me away because I really didn't know what to expect. I loved the Heir to the Empire trilogy, and I got these ones just because I heard it pretty much directly continues that story just a little bit later. And it does feature Thrawn in a way. And they continued the story with Luke and Mara Jade, Leia, Han, and their kids. But I really didn't have much expectations for these, and I ended up loving these 2 books so much, especially this one. This ends in a way where I think it could have really been the final bow on Star Wars and wrapped and been done from there. There are more books after it and continues, but the way this story ends, I was like, holy shit, this is like the finale of Star Wars. This is fucking incredible. The characters in these actually act like themselves, just a little bit older, a little more matured, but it's actually them. Luke is not a fat old man on an island drinking blue titty milk. Mara Jade, along with Thrawn, has quickly become one of my all-time favorite characters. Disney fucked up so bad by getting rid of her. Yeah, very strongly recommend these two if you are a Star Wars nerd like I am. You definitely have to read the Heir of the Empire trilogy beforehand, but if you do read those, go to these after. They're great. After those two, I read one more Star Wars book this year right after that, Darth Pagus, The Tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. I'm very into both Star Wars and political thrillers, so this was right up my alley. And this is one of the more darker Star Wars books out there. This book starts a little bit before Darth Plagueis even meets Palpatine as a kid, and it goes up until, like, right about the end of The Phantom Menace. So it's a Phantom Menace prequel, and then it plays in at the same time as it with things happening on the side. Plagueis is noticing things happening. Him and Palpatine are working on plans behind the scenes, so if you really like the political aspect of Star Wars, especially with Palpatine's grand scheme and his whole rise to power, how he becomes the Dark Lord, it's all explored very well in this book. I do think the other ones I was just showing you are a little more broad and epic, how Star Wars is going to multiple planets with multiple different characters. Those do that. This really sticks on Palpatine and Plagueis, so in a way it can feel kind of maybe scaled down in some sense, even though it's the two of them scheming to take over the entire galaxy. But like, there isn't really massive armies at war at any point in it, but it's them scheming, murdering, luring politicians into their trap, and conniving between each other. Because it starts with Palpatine not even knowing what the Sith are, and Plagueis being able to notice the dark side in him, up until the eventual conclusion that you already know, where Palpatine surpasses his master. It's a good, dark, spooky political thriller set in Star Wars that happens mostly on Coruscant and a couple other places. And that's partially the reason why I went into this one, because it was still Star Wars as I was reading, but then it was transferring into politics, and with the 2024 American presidential election happening at the time, I thought it was a good opportunity to read all of the political thriller books. Because while most people were giving themselves stress-related brain aneurysms by watching every political poll out there during the election, I was reading literature about what all these motherfuckers actually do behind the scenes. No matter what political side you consider yourself to be on, you should read all of these books. Animal Farm and 1984 were already two of my favorite books, but I hadn't read any of these ones, so I started with Fahrenheit 451. It is essentially about a time where information is illegal, and the only forms of entertainment that are allowed that everyone happily consumes is just mindless garbage that keeps you staring at pixels on a screen, not questioning what's actually going on in the world. And our main character has the job of destroying information and knowledge, which is that of a fireman. In this story, the fireman's job is to burn books. If a neighbor is watching their brainless reality TV and they happen to peek out the window and they happen to spot their neighbor reading a book, they call the fire department and the firemen show up and they burn that motherfucker's house down. And everybody laughs about it and it's a big show and celebration. And then one of the firemen whose job that is starts to realize what he's actually doing. It was a good book. It honestly felt a little light, a little short. It felt kind of like it was an easy read compared to things like 1984 and some of these others. But it was still good. If you started with Fahrenheit 451 and then went to some of these other books, some deeper political thrillers, probably a good way to go. But there were definitely some plot twists in here that I didn't see coming that were pretty exciting. It will definitely make you feel differently about what type of content you choose to spend your time consuming. So thanks for watching my channel. After Fahrenheit 451, I went to Brave New World, which I knew even less about. Brave New World is a story of a not too distant future where the inner human spirit has been replaced with productivity. People aren't born as much as they're bred, with information already programmed into them about who they're going to be and what type of life they're going to live. Everything is pretty much determined for them already. Everyone has to fit into their boxes and there is no breaking out of it. The people of this society find the idea of growing up in a home with a family and caring parents to be alien and foreign and confusing. Inner morality has been replaced with propaganda slogans, such as when characters find themselves in really stressful situations where they don't know what to do, they start just repeating slogans that was fed into their brains as kids. And eventually a character comes in who is outside of that society, who we would find to have very normal beliefs and ideals that are treated as completely bizarre and insane by the normal citizens of the Brave New World. I really really liked this one. This one surprised me quite a bit. Again, didn't really have any expectations. What I got out of it the most was learning how people are programmed. It really does highlight how propaganda works in our time even now. Obviously not to this extent, but... And it will kind of make you reflect on why humans hold things in value that they do. There's a part where one character's mother dies, and he reacts how any of us would react. And everyone else acts like he's doing something fucking insane, because to them, someone dying is just a thing that happens. And there's no, like, connection to it at all. It's just 1 minute someone's alive, now they're not. And the idea of it being a mom and a kid connection isn't even there. It's just, oh, it's someone you knew who was alive, now they're not. Moving on. So yeah, it's an interesting look at how bad society can get. And interesting to think of how much of it has already happened in similar ways. The next book I read after that, which was a big surprise for me, was The Mandurian Candidate. There's a used bookshop near me, which is fucking awesome. You get a bunch of books for cheap. And when I bought Brave New World and Fahrenheit 451, they gave me Mandurian Candidate for free. I probably would have never read it, but since they just kind of were like, hey, take it, why not? I was like, all right, so I started reading it, no expectations. It might be my favorite book I read this year. Holy shit, I got so absorbed in this story. Especially, I was reading this during the final months, weeks of the presidential election, and man was it funny to compare the situations. This is the political thriller. It's clearly fiction, it didn't really happen, but the way it does things is how politics and politicians actually operate. If someone reads this story and is like, oh, that's so wacky, I'm glad that doesn't happen in our real world.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
So many plot twists that actually shocked me. I had a couple of moments where my jaw dropped reading this book. It's violent and it's dark. The story goes to places where you're like, holy shit, there's especially something that happens in this story with the mother character where reading it you will want to throw up on the book. But it's good, like it makes the story more intense and fucked up. But But that reaction is to show how good the book is. It's not repulsive because it's bad. It's repulsive because you're like, oh my god, I can't believe the story went there. I watched both of the films that were based off this book, the one with Frank Sinatra and the one with Denzel Washington, and they were both shit. This book is way better than any of them. If you liked either of those movies, I think you will like this so much more. It's all about brainwashing and political games, backdoor deals, and espionage. Seriously huge surprise. Fantastic to read while watching all of the election news. If you're into political thrillers, suspense, dramatic stories, read this book. I cannot recommend it enough. Why don't you pass the time by playing some solitaire, Raymond? Up next, I actually read this earlier in the year than that book, but I forgot to mention it till now. I have this copy of the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer, probably the most badass looking book that I own of these two classic stories. That said, I've read the Odyssey before, but I didn't read it in here yet. I'll get to that later. I tried reading the Iliad earlier in this year, and I got halfway through the story, more than halfway or so, until I stopped and just realized to myself, I don't like a single one of these characters. There's no one in this story that I'm rooting for, that like I care about, that I have any interest in. I'm really wondering if I got like a bad translation of it, or if I'm just too fucking stupid to understand how brilliant the story is. I understand for the historical context and the introduction of so many story elements why it's so revered and big. That said, at least in this copy, I haven't checked others, it's written in a way to where you can't really connect to any of the characters except for maybe Achilles is one of the few characters that gives you enough time to actually get to know him, and obviously he's the big hero champion of the story, but he's a dick too. The whole story was jealous gods who were assholes for no reason, puppeting men who were assholes for no reason, and killing each other for reasons they didn't even understand.
Now this might strike some viewers as harsh, but I believe everyone involved in this story should die.
And in this one, it's written to where it'll introduce this massive army, and for about 20 pages, it'll be, there's a guy from that kingdom, there's the guy from that kingdom, there's the guy from that kingdom. He did all these things, and then he died. And it. I didn't get a sense of connection to like, oh, this is a big moment where this king is dying, this kingdom got destroyed. It's just kind of like, here he was and he went and fight and got his head cut off. And in this version of it, there's got to be one that's translated it better. But when a character tells one character something, say like Agamemnon tells his messenger to go tell Odysseus, hey man, I want you to go to this place at this time. Yeah, it will show all that on the page. And then the next page will be the messenger saying that to Odysseus, repeating it word for word. It copies entire paragraphs, multiple paragraphs of characters saying the same fucking lines. And I got so irritated reading it. And I keep seeing everyone talk about how incredible the Iliad is. I understand the Odyssey. I've read that before. I fully love that story. The Iliad, at least in this, could not do it. Which bummed me out. I really wanted to love it. I must be a wizard or something because I opened up to the exact spot that I was thinking of. So King Agamemnon tells a messenger to tell Achilles, I will give him 7 tripods that have never yet been on the fire and 10 talents of gold. I will give him 20 iron cauldrons and 12 strong horses that have won races and carried off prizes. Rich indeed, both in land and gold is he that has as many prizes as my horses have won me. I will give him 7 excellent workwomen, lesbians, whom I choose for myself when he took Lesbos, all of surpassing beauty. I will give him these, and with them her whom I erewhile took from him, the daughter of Briseis, and I swear a great oath that I never went up into her couch. Nor have I been with her after the manner of men and women. And then a page later, that messenger goes to Achilles, and he says, I will tell you what he has said in his tent that he will give you. He will give you 7 tripods that have never yet been on the fire, and 10 talents of gold, 20 iron cauldrons, 12 strong horses that have won races and carted off prizes. Rich indeed, both in land and gold, is he who has as many prizes as these horses have won for Agamemnon. Moreover, he will give you 7 excellent workwomen, lesbians, whom he chose for himself, when you took Lesbos, all of surpassing beauty. He will give you these, and with them her whom he erewhile took from you, the daughter of Briseis, and he will swear a great oath that he has never gone up into her couch, nor been with her after the manner of men and women. It's the exact same paragraph! Just because you're 3,000 years old doesn't mean you get credit for being lazy.
What the fuck?
Stupid fucking book.
Yeah, so that was disappointing. I didn't finish the Iliad. If there's a different version that's not like that, let me know and I'll read that one. I haven't tried the Odyssey in this version yet, but I know that the Odyssey is an amazing story that doesn't repeat lines. God damn it. Anyway, after that, it was about October, and I wanted to be in the haunted spirit, so I thought it'd be a good time for me to read World War Z. Never read it before, had only heard that the book was much different and better than the movie, and boy were they right. I remember seeing the movie at the time and being like, oh, it was a okay zombie movie, you know, whatever. And after reading the book, I'm like, how did they make that piece of shit? What the fuck? This could be such an amazing HBO series if it was done well with care. It's the story of the zombie infestation that took over the planet for a number of years, but the story takes place after that is already over, when mankind has already started to rebuild, and it's a journalist who travels the entire globe interviewing different people about their roles during the zombie war, during World War Z. And it's such an interesting way of telling the story because each chapter is a different character. I think maybe once or twice does it bring a character from one story into another one. Until the very end, then it does recap a bunch of people. But for most of the story, you meet one person and it tells their story and then it moves on. But it does such a good job at painting the entire picture. From each person's personal story, you really develop the global picture of what happened on the entire world. And I really loved how it went into different aspects of the world. It talks about the zombie outbreak happening in New York and how it was handled there. But then it also talks about it happening in India and in China and Israel and Palestine even. And it's interesting how different cultures and customs affected the response to the zombie outbreak. It wasn't a super tough read. It's fairly quick to get through once you start getting into it, but it was really enjoyable. And it's not just a zombie gore fest. It's much more about survival and the human spirit. Because it starts off with with the outbreak and people just needing to figure out what the hell's happening. And then it gets to, how do we take back the world? How do we grow? Always good when a zombie story has more than just blood and guts, but it does have that too. I would love to see a live action series of this done well, made by people who don't want to just milk it endlessly until no one gives a fuck about it anymore. And then the final book I read for 2024, it's a short one, it's a simple one, but it's a classic, and it was perfect for the holiday season because I did read it right at the beginning of December. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. I'm sure everyone out there knows this story, especially with the holiday just passing us by, but some of you might not know this original story actually does not include ducks or Muppets. I really liked following this one page by page and getting into the story, really following Scrooge around and getting to see how the different events affected him. In many of the film adaptations of this, they make him even more of a dick than he actually is, and Ebenezer Scrooge never really starts to change until he sees his grave and he has the realization that holy shit, he's gonna die, even though he's an old man, so you kind of think that that would be a given. Every time I've gone over this story, watched the movies, I'm always like, the part where you see your grave would be the least shocking part of all of this, because that's the one part that I know is going to eventually happen. So why is he so horrified to see that he's dead? He might be more horrified to see himself turn into a duck. But anyway, in a lot of the adaptations, I don't think they do a great job at his real change. They kind of make him more scared of it. In this book, and to be fair, in the Muppets Christmas Carol, which I still think is the best one, it much more emphasizes that Scrooge doesn't change out of fear for his name or his legacy, but he does really change because he sees how he could have done better for other people and helped others' lives. So at the end of the story, he's not upset that he's dead. He's not even upset that homeless people and vagrants are stealing his thing. He's upset that he didn't use his time more wisely and generously to help others and build better connections. So when the spirits are gone and he's back in his home on Christmas Day, he's not excited that he's not dead. He's excited that he has time to help now. On the last page it says, some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and little heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good at which some people did not have their fill of laughter in the outset. And knowing that such as these would be blind anyway, he thought it quite as well that they should wrinkle up their eyes in grins, as have the malady in less attractive forms. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. Probably the most touching, heartwarming thing you'll hear on any metal channel today. It's a quick, short read. It's nice, it's heartwarming, it's good to read for the holiday season. Oh, also, funny thing that I loved telling my family over Christmas. In this story, Christmas Carol, famous Christmas story, do you know why it never mentions Santa or Christmas trees? Because it was written before them. My parents lied to me. Anyway, those are the books that I read for 2024. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe it inspired you to read a little bit, check out some good literature, not spending all your time staring at attention deficit dopamine distributors. Do you have any books you read this year that you'd recommend, or any books in general that you'd recommend? I'm probably not going to do any more videos like this, to be honest, but I thought this would be fun, so let me know what you guys think of this in the comments below. Go do, read, word, book, good story, smart brain. Yeah. For more from me, check out my band Dark Insanity. You can find us on Instagram, on Spotify, on all of the streaming platforms, on Bandcamp as well. We have our EP Rabid Psychosis out now. We've got merch available for the channel and for the band. Now you can get White's Metal t-shirts, Savior of Metal hats, Dark Insanity t-shirts, Dark Insanity weed bags. We've got everything. Links for all of my stuff can be found in the description of this video. Anyway, that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video.